Hi everyone, welcome to those that are here in the venue and welcome to those of you who are watching at home. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Commune JHB page. We are so excited to have you. My name is Fezo Tonti. I'm the Performing Arts Programmer at The Forge. You will notice that we are not at the Commune because we have good life problems and we have far more people than we anticipated to have. Don't worry, we are all masked and sanitized and ventilated. Those of you who aren't masked, please can you be masked? It is Corona, it is very serious. The pandemic isn't over just because you're over it. Cool. My job today is to introduce these extraordinary people behind me, but also to give you a sense of who we are and what this place is. So as you can tell, we are at the Forge Theatre. The Forge Theatre is part of the Forge building, which has a gallery space, a workshop space, a foyer space in which we've had very incredible, beautiful events. It is a multicultural space. It is a community center, but it is run predominantly by cultural workers. We at the Forge believe that cultural work is political work, is historical work, is sociological work, is activist work. So everything that we have at the Forge at its center thinks thoroughly about the goals and the possibilities of cultural investment in this country. Across the road, we have the Commune. The Commune is a Pan-African progressive feminist space like the Forge. It is a bookshop, it is a coffee shop, and it's also an event space. So let us know if ever you'd like to partner with us for various projects. Just to let you know that we are deeply, deeply vested in radical politics. So we do have quite a good team that really thinks through the work that is presented to us, and we're always trying to work with you to collaborate. So please let us know if you are ever interested in helping. I just want to talk to you a little bit about the Commune. It's a pity that we're not there today. But the Commune was named after the Paris Commune. And this year is the 150th anniversary of the Paris Commune. So Kristen Ross writes about this moment with the French Revolution. And in particular, she writes about the ways in which ordinary folks, like the folks that are here, who were musicians, who were poets, who were different kinds of folks, decided that it was inappropriate for the monarchy to just act with impunity, and decided that, in fact, suffragette was really important in thinking about new possibilities and new imaginative realities politically. And so when we name the Commune after the Paris Commune, those are the kinds of values that we hope to instill. But also in relation to this conversation, when Linda and I were talking, and also when we were talking with the team, Indaba is the Paris Commune of the South African moment. Because in fact, here we are having deep intellectual, political, and cultural work in the form of an album, in the form of a zine, in the form of various meeting spaces and various projects in which the collective of Indaba. So Indaba also means the meeting. The Paris Commune was the meeting, and it is the meeting that changed the world. And so we are so excited to connect the lineage of the Paris Commune, of the Forge, to these extraordinary folks behind me. So we have I'm gonna take this moment for myself. My brother, Usiabonga, who is an extraordinary musician, who's an extraordinary thinker, who's an extraordinary collaborator, and I think who we need deeply in this moment. You know, the National Arts Council told us that they stole 300 million rand from artists. They told us, they gave us that information for free. By the way, why do we have so many reality shows when we've lost 300 million? Cute. Anyway, I think it's really interesting that it has been cultural workers who have been at the forefront of the imagination of this country during this time. And so Siyabonga is one of those those incredible cultural workers. Then we have Utan Dintuli, who I feel like is everyone's artistic crush. Like, you know, when Tandi walked into the shop, hi bo. But today I wanna speak about Tandi's. I wanna speak about her talent, her clarity, her precision, her curatorial work. I wanna speak about the possibilities she invites through her work. Come on, Abyssinia. Yeah, it's about to be cute. Then we have our extraordinary Luendwa Makumo, who is the co-manager at the Commune. Now, people ordinarily think that service work is easy work. Smiling every day is not a joke. It's 15 muscles per smile. I personally don't budget for 15 muscles per smile for random people. But Luendo does this work with such clarity, with such political precision, is committed to thinking seriously with all the people that come into the shop, is committed to programming with the team, is committed to thinking seriously about the ways in which mental illness has taken over Braamfontein since COVID-19. And so today I want to honor Luendo, I want to honor Nonzuzo, who is her conspirator in the shop. I want to honor the archival work. If you've seen how cute we are on social media, it's because of Luendo and Nonzuzo. So today we just want to honor their work. We want to honor everything that they do to make the pulse of these organizations literally vibrate every single time you come. So thank you so much, Luendo. I also want to speak to DJ Bob, who we'll see in a few minutes. You know, we had a conversation earlier, and he was telling me about his approach to the set that he was about to play. And I think it's quite deeply the thing that we believe here at The Forge, that in fact cultural work is discursive work. So if you listen to his set, he's playing the album, but he's also playing to the album. He's also telling us about music that was before, music that went after, music that might have inspired, music that was in community. So this is a set. It's not just a set, it's a set. So we're so proud to have brought folks in. You know, DJ Bob ran 206, which was the center of this kind of progressive cultural work. And so we are so excited and so deeply honored to have him here today. I also just want to send absolute love to the good people, who are always the good people. They're never the mediocre people. They are such an extraordinary technical team, and so we are so deeply honored to have folks that are with us in this way. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna hand over to Luendo. Just before though, I just want to say that we will be opening up a round of questions per Luendo's discretion. But also, Luendo, let me know if we can open up on YouTube as well. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Fezi. I felt very like bright and shiny and pretty and smart in that moment. It was cute. But actually, I have some beautifully shiny, smart, brilliant human beings in front of me who decided to, during a panna cotta, make a 52 artist, 8-track, 5 days of recording beauty called Indaba Is. And now we're here. First question I'm going to ask you guys both. What advice would you give to yourself at the start of this project, knowing what you know now?
She always does this to me. What I would have told myself at the beginning, I think it would be like, it's really been an amazing process. Firstly, hello everyone, sorry. Hi. Firstly, I think it's been such an amazing process that I think my only negative of it was too many Zoom meetings.
Okay,
So
I think we all agree with that
I would
one.
have cut down the Zoom meetings, to tell the truth, but quintessentially it was a really amazing learning curve. It didn't have moments where I had to be, I think it felt more like I was driven more than it was something else that I had to think about that I hadn't thought of before.
Madam Tandy, everyone's crush.
Good evening, all my crushes. um, I think I would echo what Usi has just said. I wouldn't change anything. I think we were both very present from the beginning right to the end of this process. So I think when you're present, you just know where to put your foot after you've put it somewhere else, you know. So
Okay.
I wouldn't change anything. I think we had great working chemistry, both between ourselves, with the team at Brownswood, with the musicians who were actually a part of the music making and recording. And I think that is testament to, you know, Sia always shies away from this, but I have to always come back and say that this is primarily his vision. He saw it. It's his crazy ideas. It's his belief in every artist that helped me to follow and helped us eventually come to where we are today. So I think I wouldn't change anything.
I mean, you guys have done the thing that all artists do. You just made it sound so nice and shiny and tidy. And unfortunately, we were friends, so I know y'all, and I know that it wasn't that nice and shiny and tidy. But the question I would ask then to you, Tandy, is what did Sia say to you to convince you to be a part of this project? And then Sia, how did you sell this to 52 people? I mean, I love you, friend, but 52 people.
Well, I mean, it was not shiny, definitely not. But I love working with people who are clear. You know, I've always loved collaborating, and I've collaborated with Sia in his capacity with Brother Moves On for years, and it was just he just asked, and I said yes. That is the shiny part. Because I've worked with them before, I've worked with him before, and I know that it's a very collaborative space. I know it's a space where I'm respected. I know it's a space where we all give each other space to innovate. So I feel like he thought of having me as part of the co-facilitation aspect of it, as well as being an artist on the album. And it was a no-brainer. It wasn't like I had to, you know, consult my ancestors and say, what do you think? So, yeah, in terms of that, it was just about him asking and me being ready.
Mr. Man?
How do you... so we worked it out. It wasn't 52. It was 48 because there's 4 artists who did it twice. But... I always say that I feel like if we didn't have the pandemic, this wouldn't have happened the way it did. So a lot of people might not have shown up. All of us had, there was Cape Town Jazz Fest. The Ancestors had a world tour. There was a lot going on. So I always say that firstly, like without the pandemonium, it wouldn't have happened. But second to that was... Look, I think a lot of people in the scene know I can be pushy. It's part of my energy. But then you add Tandy, who has the total opposite in an energy space, in that anything Tandy brings to the space has breathing space for everyone involved. So I already had like a killer goal with just like who's on it, and then easy part is the Brother Moves On is on because I'm in that band. Tandy's on because Tandy's in that band. The Ancestors are on because I'm in that band. And on top of that, if the Ancestors are on, if I speak to Dumi and to Gabby really well, then I'll get the Wretched on. All of a sudden, I've got 4 bands on without actually having moved a bone. And then I'm like, wait a minute though, Pupulga Pico are amazing. we are all in awe of what's happening, of Ipupa Piko as a space, as a discipline, and what we've all been doing for the last 30 to 40 years as a tradition. Ipupa really just encapsulate that so well. So it was less me choosing, and what that was the interesting part about the conversation with the label. I was trying my best to not say anything, to not pitch anything. My pitch was out to Thandi, and me and Thandi would have the conversation. Then we'd have the conversation with the label, and the label would bring up the names that I was thinking. So that was what being in the spirit of it was that it stopped being my idea, but the fact that I knew I'm a pushy human being, so let me hold back, and then other people are making the same thoughts that I have, so let me push at that point. And that's why it worked really well, was being able to realize that it became a communal effort rather than it came from my mind, it was my idea, and it's all mine. It just didn't work that way.
So my next question is actually around that, and it's looking at the creative process, because there were some big names here, and big names in individual capacity as well as collectives. You chose a truly beautiful selection of human beings to partner on this, and for that, I personally am eternally grateful. But tell us a little bit more about the creative process. Like, how do you manage and make decisions in a time of 5 days? Because we've split bills, all of us. We've been at dinners, we've organized events, and it's a nightmare. So how do you navigate that respect? How do you show, because one thing that I can say about both of you is the amount of care that you have for each other, that I've heard about both of you speaking of the other as we've been preparing for this, is a really, really beautiful thing. It's care and respect. So in a creative process, how do you harness that?
I think it's pre-production. I think the planning is what makes the execution, I won't say run smoothly, because you say it's shiny. But I think it's the planning. We thought of artists who had been on the Joburg scene for a while. Of course, because they're experienced musicians themselves, getting them into studio is not like we have to lead them. We were just that's why we even had an issue with calling ourselves producers, because it's like, how do we call ourselves producers when we're just creating a space for people who do this, and who could have easily done this on their own without us. I think we could just say we were throwing a party, basically, and saying, guys, come to my house. The party is here.
Okay.
But the people know how to go to a party. They know how to go into studio. They know. So and Sia shared the title of the album beforehand. And there wasn't much meddling in terms of the songs that you bring have to speak around these topics. There was a lot of space left to the artists to interpret what he had told themselves. But again, understanding the work of these artists. That's why I say it's pre-production, because I guess you could say in the art of collaborating, you don't just collaborate with someone because they're hot on the block. You have to understand what they're talking about. You have to know what they're about. And I think every single artist who is on this album is about what Indaba is about. So that's why I think pre-planning was what it was about. We really thought about what is this person saying? How do they execute their message? And without fidgeting too much with their artistic process, we were able to get a coherent album from that.
It's exactly what Thandi's saying. It's getting out the way. Getting out, the thing about most great ideas is they're not yours. Yeah. That's like the biggest part of, especially the consciousness that we come from as people from this continent, is that most of your ideas are channeling. They're not necessarily your ideas. So the big part of it is to get out the way of the idea. And we were really good at that. I don't even know why, but between the two of us, we knew who would go in, who wouldn't, who'd go get food at that time. Thandi's tired, so Sia's going to go in. Sia's tired, so Thandi's going to go go in. It just happened so well in that way because we just got that we got out the way. I think the best example is the Wretched track, where the three of them came in. They weren't sure what they were going to record. They sat down. They started like mind mapping. There's never a moment where either me and Tandy was like, "So guys, what's going on? Like, when are we recording? How's this gonna happen?" And we just quietly were confused, the two of us, and just going, "Well, they're doing their thing. We don't know what their thing is, so they're doing their thing." And I remember the very moment when they like finished recording the track, Tandy was staring in the middle of the studio, staring at it, going, "This is amazing." And I totally got what she meant because we had watched it happen. We didn't put our fingers in it. We didn't go, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?" Our job was to fight for it to happen. And then after the artistic integrity had been put down was to ensure that everything they had put down manifests when it's put out. So that's basically how it worked.
You guys are very, very tidy in your narrative. I appreciate it, but I still don't believe it.
50 interviews later.
Yeah, no, because I mean, like, the interviews that I have encountered definitely have been about, because there's a big conversation around jazz, right? There's like a language that people use around jazz. It's like this artistic, sophisticated thing that not everyone can understand. If you don't get it, it's because of you, not because the music is bad, which is unfair because there's a lot of stuff and a lot of connection that jazz has. And what you guys did and you created was this incredible group of people who now you're telling us that, well, we just trusted the people to do what they do. And that isn't a normal thing. We don't trust people to do what they do. So my other question then is, because I keep asking this question until you give me some, like, you know, things I can take away. I want the past paper. But my other question is then, what about creative blocks? Because all of us have had a deadline, fully aware, 5 o'clock is the time that thing needs to be in. But my mind is said, it's a holiday.
Pandemonium. Try lock up musicians for 3 months. Don't give them a gig to play. Don't give them a chance to see each other. Don't give them a chance to access each other, even in a way where they can talk about the music. And then give them a chance to record one song together. The pandemonium had that effect on things. Yeah, we knew how to get out the way and not make it Tandy and Sia's album. But at the very same time, I'm like, if it wasn't for the pandemonium, if it wasn't for the 3 months, I can promise you, even in the Ancestors, it was a 2-sentence conversation about what we're going to record. Because I was like, there's this track we should record. This is the track we should record. And it was like, we can't remember it, so we're going to record this track instead. Okay, cool. Haven't played a song in a year. I'm not going to fight with my band. So those politics came into play where it became about being able to fellowship. We were very lonely. It was weird. It was the scariest thing ever. We're very lonely. We became redundant as a thing in life.
Yeah.
And we were stuck jogging and trying to stay fit and not die. You know?
No, because guys, when you were recording this, it was June, July. So we were like in that level 3, but 1, 2, 3, we didn't even know what the levels were. We were also in that time when we thought this was all going to be 21 days and we were 2 months in, right? So we were like 21 days and we're still here. And people are telling us, and we're looking around the world and people are dying at incredible numbers because June, July, the Italy numbers, what's happening in the US. And now you're saying, all right, well, friends, let's make an album.
Well, let me bring in the mud then. Since she's begging for the mud.
I'm asking for it.
She's like, give me mud. Firstly, I'll speak on the process of recording my track. It was not finished when I went into studio. And my usual process with the band, because the band, we play together all the time, pre-COVID. But my usual process is before we record anything, I introduce the song on a gig. And in that way, it gives me a chance to arrange it, to see what worked. I go to studio with this song. It's just a voice note recording on my phone. Well, a few voice note recordings. And most of the recording was actually me being like, Okay, guys, don't worry. I'm coming to you. I'll give you the horn line just now. And in a way, I had to learn a different type of letting go in studio that I had not experienced before, because this is my time slot, first of all. We had time slots so that we couldn't have everyone at studio at the same time. And then this is my time slot, and this is the song I've chosen. Even if I know I've got other songs that I could choose, this is the one that's like pulling me to record it. And I was very frustrated with that. But in studio, I sort of did what I could, and I had to let go. I had to let go. But now, once the album is out, once I hear everybody's songs, I'm like, this is the song that fit in with this theme. It couldn't have been another song. So I guess in a sense, for me artistically, it was helping me exercise a different muscle. You know, everything has always been in my control to a certain extent. But this time in studio, it was a little bit messy. You know, the horns recorded a different day. Then we had to record the bass and the guitar because their parts were not good, so they recorded again at Shane's place. Yeah, I guess in that sense, the time slots, the limited time, the limited schedules also caused a little bit of anxiety. And I can't speak for every artist, but there was a lot of tussling with it. Like, is this it? I know even with the Brother Moves On track, we went outside and we were debating, for lack of a...
She's being very nice. We're not debating. We're having a full-on fight. But the reason why the song came out the way it did is because Tandi's amazing.
Gospel.
The rest of the brothers a bit too hard on Zweli. Zweli is the genius that sometimes forgets that he's a genius at times. So a lot of times we have to convince him that he's really good at what he does. So he was taking forever, and we were wanting to make more on top of this track. And Tandi just shut the three of us down, kicked us out of studio, and left Zeli alone in studio for a good half hour to 45 minutes. And to this day, this is why the song is as amazing as it is. Yeah, it's because for the first time, Zeli's allowed to properly play 15 guitars on one track, which is something we would never allow him to do on a Brother Moves On track without Tandi. And it's that power. I think that's what kind of came out, that interpersonal relations. Musicians are downplayed as these humans who, in relating to other adult spaces, are inept, are the weirdos, are the ones who can't, you know?
Yeah.
They're geniuses, so we have to let them off for this. But I think in the whole Indaba process, from Bokani's first day to the last day, the beauty was just how musicians have space for other human beings and can facilitate everyone else, and in a way that's not as demeaning as how society facilitates their presence. So it's not to make you feel like, oh, but you're talented in this, but you're retarded in that, you know, but it's to come at you and go, there's space here, breathe, be allowed to. And I give even this example of the Brother Moves On with Tandi, where we are always hard and making Zwash feel like he's a weirdo for wanting to put 15 guitars on one track. Tandi has the patience to be like, he's a genius, give him his time and space, let him be. And we went outside, we had a good time, we were having great conversations about the scene, about the future. So no time felt like downtime in that relation, you know?
So I'm going to ask you both another question, because you kind of both have alluded to it a bit, but I remember my own personal mental health around the time this thing was being recorded. I was a mess. Honestly, I was a mess. Just because I had nothing to kind of ground this experience in. It's nothing like any of us had ever experienced before. And it seemed that it would be stretching on forever, that this would be our lives and we don't know what to do. So how did you guys manage your own individual mental health, but also as a collective of people? Because we all lost people as well. So it wasn't like the world stopped and was gentler because we were creating this beautiful thing. But amidst all of that, you needed to keep your mind in a good place and your heart in a safe space. So what, if any, tools did you use to look after your own mental health at that time?
I love that you think our mental health is okay. I'm just like, nice. No, I mean, honestly, I think having this project to work on really helped. For me, I feel like my lockdown started in 2021 because last year, yeah, gigs were getting cancelled, but I didn't have much time to actually process everything that was happening. I was working, and outside of Indaba Is as well, people were sending me tracks, put some vocals on this track. So creating was actually keeping me, I think, insane. I really feel like it's this year where I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going crazy because now the album is out, the Zoom meetings have diminished. It's like, come on, you know. I think I'm very fortunate in that way, but it also speaks to the power of art and creativity, in, like, I guess, helping us escape our current situations. There were a lot of losses. I know also Shawnee passed on just before we went to studio, while we were in studio, which was like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
what the hell? Especially how he died, knowing how he spent his last moments. That was like, you know, but at the same time, it also gave us fuel because this is something that we know Shawnee would have been extremely proud of. He would have
Yeah,
been cheering
definitely.
us on, just because of who he was. And yeah, I think it was just taking things at bite size that really helped me through last year. I'm still looking for a way to cope for this year, but definitely the bite sizes was helpful for last year.
Yeah,
Yes, friend.
I start with Tandy starts with the fact that you think we're mentally okay. Uh, I don't think anyone in this room is mentally okay. Just to be real, you know.
Fair enough. I'll take
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, like
I'll take it. I'll take
it's
it.
been a rough time for all of us, and it continues. It's not a time that ends. We just lost Pumlani on Sunday,
Yeah.
you know. So it's the weirdest time. On the times we were recording, I'd come out of studio and I'd phone Shawnee to tell him how well we were doing, because Shawnee's my childhood friend. Shawnee was, when I was in Standard 2, Shawnee was in Standard 1. Shawnee introduced me to Nikki B's show on Kaya FM. Shawnee was my African music friend who'd come and be like, yo, my friend, have you heard this? And come and play it for me and be like, and we were even like, well, this is weird music, we don't understand it, yeah? And like 10 years later, the whole world's on it.
Yeah.
And Shawnee was that human being. And beyond that, Shawnee was the person who really believed in me.
Yeah.
So it was like calling your mom from studio to be like, we've done it. It's like, mama, I made it. And only once we left studio do I realize, and I have this weird vibe, with a new method was Nkosh. You know, in the exchange we didn't realize for something to be birthed to the world, something died to us.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
this is the next time it's happened, and it's happened again, and it's happened at the same hospital as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so then Shawnee becomes sort of the emblem for this. It's so weird. I was like, should we dedicate this to him? And I was like, I'm so tired of dedicating albums to friends that pass and letting that be the thing, because then it means that for future albums to come out, friends need to die. So it's such a weird little space where I don't think I've made sense of the energy exchange, but if there's anyone who embodies what this is about, it's Shawnee.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like everyone on this album, people who I hadn't even spoken to, who showed up on studio the first day and I spoke to them, they probably spoke to Shawnee.
Sure.
So that's like, it's the weirdness of it. And at the same time, this becomes my balm. I don't think I'd be okay now if it wasn't for the work me and Tandy did through this. My wife, my daughter, my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law. Because in Tandy speaks of her track, Dikeledi. I've heard Dikeledi from its first iteration. It was my bomb for Shawnee being gone. Between Dikeledi and Abantu by Zoe Modiha, that was how I was crying. You know? And I watched the track go till its ending. So even in that track, it's so weird. I discovered it month to month to month. Dikeledi is my grandmother's name. Yeah, so like my grandmom's a big part of who and why I have succeeded in the way I have. If there's anyone fighting on the other side, it's my gran. It's track 7 on the album, which is the number of the gods. You know, I watched Tandy just go through the difficulty of it, but from its first iteration, it's been heavenly. You know, from its first iteration, it's spoken to me. It's spoken to my pain. It's spoken to my healing that I need to go to, and it's had that beauty. So this album doesn't become this commodified thing that I can make money simply for. It's my bomb. It's what I've listened to for 6 months. I know these songs backwards and forwards because they've helped me heal from the fact that I lost my best friend. You know?
Thanks, ma'am. No, but seriously, rest in peace, Shawnee. We'll put a bit of a note in the YouTube video for this about the campaign and all that's going on, because it's a very important conversation that needs to keep going. But you also, because you guys are superstars and you don't like sleep, obviously, you also made a zine. So you did the LP, this beautiful thing, and hey, why not also include a zine with some heavy hitters? Tell us about the zine.
Are you gonna start or should I? Okay. The zine was really, so we've seen this a lot as artists when a story. I mean, it wasn't a suggestion by Brownswood. They've done it before with another project, but we jumped on this because we've seen it many times before that when our story gets told as Africans by the powers in the other countries, there is a lot of misinterpretation, misunderstanding, and what we're trying to communicate gets lost. So this is something we were almost like, can I use the word anal? We were almost anal about this, like just being like,
What were we?
like, huh?
What were we?
Uncle now. That it has to be communicated properly. This message has to get across the way. No, you cannot romance. No, you cannot do. You have to hear what we're trying to say and listen and let us say it. So what was great about the zine is that we got the heavy hitter that is Mam Gwen Ansel to write, and what was beautiful is that she's got a huge knowledge of the history in terms of as a writer. So she's been writing about our music for years and was able to put her perspective. We got Nduduzo Makatini to write, and I mean, something we haven't mentioned yet, but it's incredible to me that this album was made the same year that Ubab Credo Mutwa passed on, and was released on the year, which this year is his centenary. So blows my mind, but that's what it is. And he got to write something reflecting on that. I think it was very important to have those kind of ideas, because people can lose everything and can get watered down. We had a piece by Kwela Khobisekele who wrote kind of reflective on Indaba Is and Outer National, which was with Melt 2000, one of my favorite labels ever. um, and it was just kind of mirroring the two projects, which I think was important. C and I struggled with the 8 tracks because, as you all living in Johannesburg know, that it's not just 8 musicians in the city. And it's really hard to tell the story of what is happening in our scene now, just in Joburg with 8 tracks, let alone South Africa. So Indaba Is fanzine was also an opportunity to bring people to other parts of who we are. So we don't want people saying that South African jazz has not died. It's like, no, it never died. We were never trying to make that exclamation. You know, Abo Brazim have been holding the fort, Bo Marcus White and Siamakuze. It's been going on. It's just, it goes in cycles, I guess, the amount of attention that's given to our music. And I think we wanted to really make sure that no one looks at this and says, the resurgence of South African jazz on the global scale. After Hugh Masekela, there was the brother moves on, Bokani Dai. We're like, no. You have to understand that there's a lineage going on. And so I think it was really important for us to bring that message across in that sense.
Yeah, we're not the first blacks. And it's a vital message we should all hold as South Africans. Like, this whole idea of first black is retarded. It erases black people who've done such amazing work in the past. It makes you the first person who's arrived. And that was the big part of the zine, was we didn't want to be seen as the first blacks. We didn't want the colonizer speaking of us as this exceptional moment in blackness, rather than the fact that it's a continual moment of blackness that has made this happen. So the zine allowed us that. But then also the added side is, in as much as we're really serious people, we drink smoothies. So Sibusile's smoothie was on the last page. So if you really have been following Sibusile online, you realize why that smoothie has something behind it. And I wrote a haiku. For a very long time they were asking me to write a piece, and I wasn't really interested to write another piece. I was tired. So I made a joke that I'd write a haiku, and they allowed us to write a haiku, and that was my first and last haiku in the world. Yeah. Yeah, and Zara did as well. Yeah, Zara also wrote a piece. So it was really important to contextualize. Andrew also wrote a piece for Mushroom Hour as well. It was just really important to not be the coconut kid in the class who's the only one who can speak English and will speak for all blackness. It was important to show that there's a lot of work that's been done before us, a lot of work that's been done with us, and a lot of work that will be done after us. And we're tired of blackness having to have these moments rather than our existence be continual.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'll be sharing a mic with you now, from now on, friend. But I think, like, especially, okay. I think especially when it comes to blackness and it comes to jazz and it comes to music, there's this very nice tradition of trying to make it like a singular narrative without like fully understanding the context and the history. So well done to you guys for, really trying to champion that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the zine in time for this launch, but it will come. And when it's here, we will let you know. But I just also wanted to ask you guys about, what do you think? You've got a daughter, and I don't know if you have kids, Tandy. All right. Yes. Fair enough. Fair enough. But what do you think this album is going to say to future generations? And not in that you're the first and the last, but just something about adding to the canon of South African jazz at a time when we were all so vulnerable. I remember when this album was released on the 29th. It was a Friday. And I love a Friday because it's New Music Friday. And I woke up and I'd been seeing the art and I'd seen the conversation, and it finally came out, and I was like, whoa, I needed this. I needed this moment in order to kind of gather myself and reflect on all the things that have happened in this time. So yeah, when your daughter is, 21 on the clubs, or at the commune, in case we're still around, but when she's listening to music and other kids are listening to music and they come and they find it, um, what do you want them to remember about this moment?
Okay, sis. My daughter sings Abantu word for word. Yeah, it's Daddy's song in her words. So she'll hear it on Kaya just randomly like, Daddy, it's your song. And sing along to it. And why that's vital to me is I've got my dad's vinyls from the beginning of time. My dad made sure that I would have that connection. I didn't like jazz as a kid. My dad listened to a lot of impulse records. So John Coltrane, Pharoah Sanders, etc., etc. My first really like, okay, we've done it now, was New York Winter Jazz Fest opening for Pharoah Sanders. And it wasn't because of Pharoah Sanders, it was because of my dad. My dad is why I was there. It was the continuance, exactly again, of this black continual relation. It was the continuance of my family, of my heritage, of why I decided to sing. It wasn't a chance thing. It wasn't about my talent. It was what the spirits that carry my blood, for so long, have manifested to being. So I always think of this music as like palaces in the sky. You know, it's something you leave your children, that I sometimes have a thought listening to something my dad might have listened to 30, 40 years ago as now a 37-year-old male, and being like, oh my God, he might have thought this too. So my dad is alive. My dad is with me. My dad is living. I'm learning lessons from my dad through his music, through his literature, through being in the same spaces he might have been at years, 30, 40 years ago. But the inferences of the things that influence me are the same. I'm trying to leave music for my daughter to ensure she remembers who and what we are in these times that we're in. And it's less about her. Later she'll bump it for her friends, but I think it's the moment when she's alone in a room having a hard time and remembers her pops because she's listening to Abantu. And the message carries further and further and further. And that's the thing. It's just like, that's where it rests for me. And that's the beauty of what we do, is that we're not in varsities.
Yeah.
we're not in master's papers all the time. But somehow our elders have stored this knowledge system for us. It's there. It's accessible. It's just we are only believing in one like point of access, instead of being open to the fact that it's just freely given, freely available to us.
That's what's up.
Listen,
Sorry.
no, you can't be sorry, because I was extremely nervous about this, but then someone told me just think of it as chatting with your homies. And I think all of us collectively have really had that experience
Yeah.
of just chatting with our homies about this beautiful thing that you did in a time when the world continues to be a dumpster fire. And we all have to wake up, and I'm pretty certain that you are the reason that a lot of people wake up and get out of bed and dream a little bit and imagine, because what you did on this thing, I think we'll be feeling for years to come. But what I appreciate about you both is, as much as I push you to ask about mess, is that you haven't made it a mystical thing. You are just showing exceptional artistry and highlighting the exceptional artistry that exists in our industry at this time. And obviously the challenge and the issue continues to be that we allow and create spaces for people to do that, and we protect those spaces. I don't know if either of you want to say anything about what's happening. Faizi said it very articulately. The National Arts Council told us straight they lost 300 million. Sorry, stole 300 million.
Um, for me, I think it speaks to what you're speaking about, and the question you asked before about what people will take from especially our children from this period. I think that there is a serious awakening happening, especially amongst people of the darker hues. I think there's a serious awakening happening, and I think, you know, as South African artists, for a long time, maybe still, there's this view that we are trying to live up to the West. But I think we're coming into a time now where we're actually like, I think the world's solutions are here, you know, are in the way that we know how things should be. The spirit of community, you know, I mean, I know COVID in itself has been a very stressful and difficult period for all of us, but I love the way that being pushed to the edge has forced us, particularly as artists, to think differently about how we've been doing things all along. I've never really enjoyed the industry aspect of the industry. And I love collaboration. I love working with people. It comes most natural to me. So, and this is not even an ideology that is a music thing. It's a life thing. We have seen, most of us who have grown up in townships have seen what it looks like for black people who work together and make something beautiful happen. And I hope that people pick that up and people find this as an affirmation of ourselves. We're like, okay, yeah, yes, okay, we have always looked at that side for these theories and that theories, but actually, what about the way we do things? Isn't there something inherent about being African that the world can learn from, you know? And in the sense of what has happened with the NAC, the two things I'll say about it is that I don't feel like the government doesn't know what they're doing. I could be wrong. I could be a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, the ANC is a party that knows the power of the arts. So
Choices have been made.
having us as artists disempowered, for me, makes sense contextually. I'm not even mad. I'm like, if I were you, I would disempower me too. Like, just like, do you, boo boo? I know what you're up to, but I think all the artists who have demonstrated Sisbongile Mngoma are amazing, but they're bringing back that thing that artists had lost pre-COVID, where we were getting into the shiny life of being an artist. And I don't think that's what being an artist is about. I'm not saying that umzabalazo for life, that you can't enjoy life, but I think we kind of, as artists as well, had kind of gotten a little bit dizzy.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
So it's kind of like it's got its pros and its cons. I think we're seeing that, you know, seeing an artist speak up against the authority and saying, no, this thing that you're doing is rubbish. That's what we know about South African artists. That's who we are actually, not this thing that we've been doing when things have been fine. And I hope that what it's going to do for us as artists is really bring back that responsibility that we actually have to society, to actually say, let's hold each other accountable for our behavior at all times, whatever it may show up as. But in terms of the NAC, I don't think they don't know what they're doing.
Our president has said nothing. Just to start it off, our president has said nothing. It's a 300 million presidential stimulus. The person whose money got stolen has said nothing. But beyond the government's relation, because I think Tandi's covered it really well, Marcelo said something really amazing. And it has a lot to do with, at times, how we relate to power. It has this ability to homogenize us and make us feel that we have to be this one blob that agrees on how we fight things, that agrees on how we're going to turn things around. Marcelo said, how do I go and sit in and sleep over at the NAC offices when I don't have a house or a place to live? She made the stance complex in the fact that those of us who can afford to go and sleep at someone else's office normally have homes to sleep in. And when you go to the NAC offices, half the artists who are there don't. So there was this interesting parity where Marcelo was pointing at the fact that continually when we fight the powers that be, we forget the internal conversation for the very people who are the ones who are affected by that power. We never make it complex. We all have to believe in one thing, and that's the only way to overcome this power. I find the NAC stance to be really powerful in that no one from that generation has stood up for something by principle in the last 25 for me. And Mamsbongile to do that is a really powerful thing from that particular generation. I worry what comes next. And I do ask that of the NAC comrades. I've had conversations with people to be like, it's great that we're sleeping in there, but we're not all about the pest money. Some of us had problems with this ministry in the first place to start off with. What comes next? And I think it's what I'm trying to point to is there is never an internal conversation by those who are oppressed about what kind of future we actually want. So we continually fight everyone else's idea of our future. No one in 94 asked the arts sector what it wanted, how it wanted to be viewed in relation to labor, how it wanted to be viewed in relation to who, what, how, where. Yet the arts sector was how we were part, the four-part harmony was a big part of the struggle. We were able to overthrow a government because we found some collision using the arts as well to get there. But we've been ignored. We've been left behind. It is also our fault. Tandi's pointed to it. We all want to be on SABC 1. You know? But that, and that's the beauty of it. We're at an interesting part where the question's been asked. Yes, we could relate to what the government is about, but we've also got to, as a citizenry, take responsibility about how we do not organize together. And we do not take the time together to build the world we want. And it's the same microcosm on a macrocosm is what's going on with the country and the leadership vacuum we have. Everyone can tell you we have a leadership vacuum. No one can tell you about the black solution forward.
Whew. Facts. Facts on facts on facts. So before we end though. Okay, no, but one of my best friends always says something really, really, really important, and I think this is something that we try to do at the Commune and the Forge. It's like it's what keeps me going all the time is you need homies who you can discuss Jean-Paul Sartre with, but the minute Sister Bettina comes on, they also know what to do. And there's no other way to discuss these things because these are both parts of our lives, you know? And the way that sometimes jazz is characterized in music and the arts is like, oh, those people over there. But this us laughing, this us getting through it, this us getting through mud and having conversation, that's how things happen. They don't happen over there in like a neat and tidy way. Some days we are lucky and we look like ducks and all you see is the gliding on top of the water. But the majority of the time, the work is the furious, furious paddle. So thank you so much, both of you, for your honesty and your integrity and the thing and the legacy that you have started. And before I let you go, I would just like to ask if there are any questions from the floor. Well then.
Seriously, no one. Y'all being real.
Okay, please can you just put your hand up? I know there's a comment here, but please can you make it a sexy comment that sounds like a question? And and then we have another hand over there. Okay, cool. So we're gonna take two for now.
I suck at being sexy. But I just wanted to say thank you for that. I mean, the stuff that you guys have been sharing. I mean, I've been on the verge of tears twice tonight, and then like so many moments of joy. Man. Whew. Hey. That was sexy. Thank you. Girl, you sexy. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to find out, how did you decide on the artists that are on the actual album?
So we had a basic idea. Well, I first had a very, very basic idea that is nothing close to what that amazing album became. Then Tandy came on board and we had conversations, and then we took those conversations to Brownswood. And eventually they were like, we're going to leave this with you guys to decide. The conversation basically became, how do we in these 8 tracks try and include as many people as possible? So how do we move away from bands? How do we move away from already existing combinations and create new spaces, new relations that make it happen? And that became the defining factor. We decided on the 8 human beings who would be the center of the idea, but in essence we'd leave the producing up to them. And those being Bokani for track 1, for track 2, the brother Antandi, for track 3, Luanda Kokwane and Luyanda Madupe, for track 4, the Wretched as a whole crew. For track 5, we left it with Sibusile, but then like if you ever have an understanding of the Pretoria crew, they're totally amazingly different to the Johannesburg musician. They're a breed of their own. They have a consciousness that's amazing. That for me was like the first time I came in contact with it was Capital Arts, and Capital Arts just had this, people were taking off shoes to come and listen to music. They were black hippies in the truest sense. You know, the Joburgs are the hipsters, the ones in line with the streets. Pretoria has like a serious consciousness that fuels its music. So when Sibusile took it back, it's weird to even say that it was his track, because if you've heard Fagazile sing on that song, it's amazing and beautiful. Naftali brings what Naftali always brings. There's this the people he carries with him when he sings. And Ash K's productions just took it away from being what you would normally view as a Sibusile track to something totally different. So it wasn't this whole like, you're the center, you decide. We made that person the center. This person continued this openness that is our culture, that is our being, and said, I want this one on, I want this one on, I want this one on. We're all going to do it together. But the only way to notate it on that piece of paper is to go, this person wrote it, this is what happened. But it became a community relation on that space. We fought, like, out of all the bands, the one we fought the most for was Ipupolga Biko. Because the label was like, we want artists who have a discography. So something that when people hear the track, they can go look for more stuff and find stuff deeper in the system. But with Ipupo, we fought on the basis of, we're those old people now. We're 10 years ago the very people who weren't allowing us into spaces, who weren't opening things up for the youngsters to be the next gen that takes things. So our big fight with the label was like, it makes no sense for this to be the young lion generation when actually the true young lions are here already. So we fought for Ipupo on that basis. That's the differentiation between the rest of the bands. On the basis of, we were like, they haven't recorded yet. They're prime for recording. Everyone wants to hear this music. They're exactly what we'll fight for. And the question they asked was like, are you guys sure about this? And we were like, we're 100% sure. The first time they heard it, they came back and they were like, okay, we totally get it. Because, you know, it's a continuing thing. It's not something that ended.
Hello. First of all, awestruck. This is an amazing project. I guess my question is, like Tandi said, music had already been in a space where it was greatly trying to assimilate to Western culture. What helped you keep grounded? What helped you keep in that headspace where you didn't want to assimilate to Western culture?
You mean as a project on a whole, or?
Yes, as part of the legacy that you were trying to build, as trying to bring it back home.
Well, it goes back to what I had mentioned about the artist work that we have been following. Any of these artists, if you engage with their work in terms of their catalog, what they've already done, the questions they are asking with their art, they speak to this. It's just like this wanting to kind of take that thing off. It's like, okay, yeah, but I'm African, you know. In their own ways, everyone is articulating that in their own ways, I think. And so in terms of this album, it really was just about thinking about artists who are doing that work already. I think that's very important because that's really how we got such a coherent album. I think it really comes in terms of understanding, appreciating, following, loving the work of the artists that we work with. And I think between Sia and I as well, that's what made it so important for us to actually make this project received in the way it intended, because of the respect we have for each artist that is involved in this project. You know, I know, for example, an example with Usbusile. The label asked us, here's some mud. The label asked us to send the lyrics and the meanings. And Usbusile replied to the emails like, Izul astoliko.
Come on with the word.
So you know when you're like on social media and you're scrolling and you see a funny video and you're like laughing alone, looking around at your house plants and your cushions and trying to see if anyone got the joke as much as you did. That was me when that email came through. I was just like, these people don't know Spusile. But then the lady on the other side, Davina, she explained, oh yeah, I totally get it. I've got Ghanaian heritage. And so then he was like, oh, Nkuluma nomuntu, okay, sure, no. I will cooperate. But that was hilarious for me. I just sat back. I'm like, all right. But it's that kind of thing of like, I wasn't even shocked when I got that when we got that response from Spusile, because we know he's like, hi Suga. Why must I translate what I just said? Then you lose the meaning of what I'm talking about. And in their own ways, every single artist on this album is affirming an African stance, an African identity in their own way, or at least seeking to find a way to express it in a way that is authentic to them. So I think that's how we did it, you know, just, yeah.
Not trying. You know? You're born here. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. Also for for us Coco kids, it's a lot difficult because coconut. Yeah. Yeah, I remember it was that really amazing phrase in the 90s and everyone thought it was an insult. But it was a hard time because apparently we weren't cultured. Apparently we couldn't carry what our lineage and our blood has within us without us even trying. But like as the years come, it's become obvious that that was all a project to make blackness homogenous. No, to kill the multiplicity, especially Joburg. Joburg's beauty was the multiplicity. We went through a weird danger pre-COVID where Joburg was becoming this really homogenous understanding of what it meant to be Joburg. Joburg was the free black place. I say that whenever I'm anywhere in the world. And they say, yo, I went to Cape Town. I'm like, that's nice, but go to Joburg. It's land of the free blacks. You know? It's where we express ourselves. We say what we like. We're even free to other blacks. They can't tell us. You know, we don't care if they've got university degrees. They can't tell us because that's the beauty of blackness, is that. And so, especially with this project, was that none of us, even within our bands, deal with blackness in a homogenous sense of being. So if you're a white player, like Tandi's band's the most interesting because Tandi will start speaking to Keenan like she's from Cape Town and they come from the same neighborhood. And then she'll switch to Shane and then she'll be talking to Spare and then she'll be talking to Mtunzi, but she has a sensibility to understand that they're all different kinds of black people in this idea of being black. So I think it's very important in our idea of how do we maintain it to not, you know? Because to do so is to deal with a distraction, which is whiteness. To do so is to answer their query about our blackness. Just be there with other black people, and like our energies carry through. It's less us doing. Doing is a white sense of like this Western ideology of being, you know? It's just being. You're beautiful for the fact that you can hang out with your people without there being an outcome. You know, and that's my thing about it is we need to stop this thing of culture being this thing that you have to reach. You know? You have to have a dad who's Zulu, you have to have this. All of these are political associations, really, if we go down to the core of it. But when we have to look at the consciousness of what they were talking about, was a togetherness that we all understand clearly outside of language. So this whole exercise of being African enough, being black enough, it's a white thing. It has nothing to do with black people. So it's important we stop relating to it. It's a distraction. We are.
Shoo. Thanks. Firstly, yeah, thank you. Thank you for, I think in the last year, more than ever, the arts has kept us all alive. So thank you very much for surviving this last year in this way. Thank you for surviving Shawnee's passing in this way. I think it's really made it easier in some way for all of us to survive. So thank you. The question though is, South African music is doing the most right now, and I'm really keen on like what's in your ear right now. Who are you listening to? Who's influencing the music that you're making? Who should I be going home and checking out tonight? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think I've been feeling like South African music is doing the most. I will say 2020, Ndavo Zulu's album was just like, it did a lot. Yenze kakhulu. Yeah, I think between that album and Zoe Modiga's album, I don't think I listened to anything else. Seriously, I'm those people who, like, if you lived with me and I like a song, Shem. Sorry, because
It is what it is.
it's gonna be bird for you. I play until like the end of days. So on rotation for me were those two albums, and I think it was a big year in general for South African jazz, with Nduduzo's first Blue Note release. I think that's also very symbolic. I even said to him, dude, your I don't know if it was his first or his second single, Indaba, that went live the day McCoy Tyner died. I was just like, anyway, that's just me. But yeah, I think it's just where we're at right now. It's our time, and not to say it's our time as in our music has now become world class. No, I just think it's now the period where what we have been saying and what we continue to say is going to resonate globally.
Tanya Ndula's gonna get a Grammy. Um,
Shine, 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 shine,
It
shine.
needs to happen in the next 5 years. Tanya Ndula needs to get a Grammy. Seriously, the world needs to realize. What I'm listening to, SN Project. It's called the SN Project, right? Pianist. Really, mina nawe sihlangene njengamathino. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful project. Mohammed Dorji is on it. Kinsman, a beautiful, beautiful band that gets it. Sitar, tabla, and tenor sax. Really amazing, amazing project. Of course, my number one, Ipupolga Pico. Like, as long as they don't suffer from what we've all suffered for, it should be the greatest band to leave South Africa in a while. But that comes from learning from all the rest of us as well. That's just a big part. What else is there? Always Mandisi. Mandisi Jankies. Like, yeah. I play Somandla for anyone who doesn't know South African jazz, who's an auntie, who's an uncle, who's like, you kids have forgotten. And I'm like, Nkosi Somandla, Ntaliwe Zulu. He's like, what Mandisi does there is amazing. An underrated human being who's amazing, Spa. Like, Spa's work is just not seen for what Spa does for the scene. And she carries a lot of us when she's doing it at the same time.
Spa will be here
Yeah,
next week.
yeah.
Just letting you all know. See you all next week.
I listen to a lot of Spa. Like, I am really into Spa. Who else? Who else is there? There's a lot, yes, guys.
Urban Village.
Urban Village, yes, most definitely. Radio Sichaba, Bokani's got a new project coming out. Just to go through it track by track now, right?
Go for it.
Radio
go for it,
Sichaba, Bokani's got a new project coming out. Indaba Zulu, all of us have seen the magic that is Indaba. Indaba was just carrying, like, we went to go watch a show for the dig with Tumi, and Tumi looked at me and said, Ntembo, these kids are 10 years younger than us. I was like, yes, Tumi. And I was like, that's beautiful. Sisonke's album, like, I only found this album 2 weeks ago properly. I've been meaning to listen to it. I downloaded it a very long time ago. But also through the album, my appreciation for our own Stevie Wonder / Ray Charles, Yonela, Yonela carries so much. I sent Sisonke a message to be like, yo, man, who's doing the vocals on this? And he's like, Yonela. And I was like, duh, obviously. Because I've seen Yonela do so much in relation, you know? I'm looking forward to a Luanda Kokwane album. Yes, it hasn't been said that a Luanda Kokwane album is coming. But I feel like he's the... You know, everybody always does this thing of who is the next Hugh. And it's not to say he's the next Hugh in, like, singling him out instead of the rest of the trumpeters. But Luanda is that careful to want to create work that is in awe of Hugh. You know what I'm trying to say? He's been looking at Hugh in that way, and his work speaks in that way, and it's beautiful in that way. The Wretched say they're not a band. It's probably the best band on the album for me, my favorite band. They make me so uncomfortable. They make me enjoy punk rock from Kempton Park, even though it's played by 3 black people, which is weird. Ash K is doing some amazing work. Fagazile, wherever you are, this whole country is waiting for that album. You're here somewhere, and, like, seriously, you are the find of 2020, 2021 in my vocal world.
Show yourself.
You are beautiful in what you do. What you do on that is power. Your power, you know? Naftali's working on a full album as well. Like, the first time I heard Naftali and the Royal Family was probably in 2011. And from then onwards, he's one of the few vocalists. It's so weird to have someone your age that you look up to. But I look up to Naftali in that way. He's that kind of vocalist. The Ancestors no longer exist, sad to say. They're a new band called Sidebar that's playing tomorrow. So it's not all dead.
Where are they playing?
Tomorrow at the farmhouse, Nyrock Side of Life.
Okay.
Yeah. Tandi Dooley is gonna win a Grammy in the next 5 years.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's.
I'm ready. I'm ready to
yeah,
host that
we're
interview.
We're starting a whole campaign. Tandi Dooley wins a Grammy.
Yep.
Yeah, and then track 8, of course, Ipupulga Piko, the powerhouses. But there's also a hiding human here who decided she's gonna finally record an album from Ipupulga Piko. Bulane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Show yourself.
Bulane.
Show
Bulane,
yourself.
like, I once did a gig where I backup sang for Tsepo Tsula. And the people's poet, yeah. And it was the most painful thing I've ever done musically because I was really bad at it. I was really, really, really horrible at it. And it was the first time I had to interact with the idea of being a backup singer and what a powerful thing it is to be a backup singer. And the musicianship you need to be a backup singer is something beyond the lead singer or solo singer. Like the kind of support that you hold everything up. I've worked with Pulani over 3 tracks, and every single time I listen back, she does things where you're like, this is why the track is amazing. She creates the means to do more in life.
Yes,
and
sis.
Powerhouse. So I think that's the most interesting part of this, is that even beyond the people I've mentioned, oh yes, the number one. Sorry, there's one I did think of and Tandi just reminded of. Mtunzi Mvubu. Mtunzi's been like a 14-year-old boy who plays horns for all of South Africa's giants.
Wow.
If anyone who's ever touched your heart in South African music, Mtunzi's played for and been the kid locked up in the hotel room so that he couldn't go and drink. This is the same boy now who's like toured and played with everybody around. He's finally recording his solo album. It's called The First Gospel. Last night was its premiere on Marcus Wyatt's House on the Hill. But like, between me and Tandi, if we're excited about any album in life right now, Mtunzi is it. We tease him on the factor that Mtunzi is Mr. South Africa when it comes to the jazz scene. Between Mtunzi, Khunzi and Duduzo and Ayanda Sikade, which is another one that I've forgotten in my list. These are the people who've created the bridge to now. These are the people who sat as youngsters. Dumi Mokhorosi is there, Ariel Zamonski is also there, who sat with our elders and played and learnt and are passing lessons on to us who've never sat with our elders in relation as well. Mtunzi is that. So this album is important because I told him, I said, this is the only album I feel could be crowdfunded in South Africa from beginning to end, is these 4 people that I've counted. And in these 4 people, I've also forgotten, Ayanda Sikade has just recorded a new album as well. And I don't think we've paid enough attention to Ayanda's first album, Movements, which is the most beautiful thing you will ever hear. And that's my thing about this thing, is that we have not collected this music well enough together and archived it well enough together, beyond even anyone else outside of us enjoying it, for ourselves to enjoy. You know? So if you're out there and you're a coder, you're in the IT world of how we should be archiving this shit. The Brother Moves On's music is not on Spotify for a reason, right? The reason is I want a south to south and a south to north distribution means that comes from my peers, because my very peers are the ones who share this music. My very peers are the ones who build this. So you see us stand here now able to do this, but this network needs you to actually be something that continues and is archived properly and leaves our hands, which is why we're such humanists about it, is realizing this is half the job. This all needs to reach a generation beyond us.
Yeah.
You've all been searching for music 10, 20 years back. How difficult is it? How difficult is it to find any Kwaito online? How difficult is it? Feafaku online, Zimlawana online properly. It's just not being archived enough, and Spotify has no clue. Spotify will take you from Ringo to Mendoza. So this responsibility now is now us passing on the baton to be like, yo, homies.
Where you going, Holmes?
Yeah, I know we're leaving now.
Okay. You're still
I'm
here.
joking. I'm still here, but I'm saying to people out there who have the means, who have
Yeah,
the know-how,
definitely.
this is not enough.
Yeah.
This is how albums disappear. This is why Gwen Ansell had to teach us that there was another compilation that came 20 or 15 so years ago. Why
Yeah.
P.O. had to teach us there was another one 10 years or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
We forget as a nation, and that's why we've got this first black mentality.
Yeah. So to end this, and I think it's actually really nice that we are on the stage because about 2 weeks ago we had a 150th centenary for Charlotte Zubeida Jaffa has just recently written a book. And the reality of history is that black people have been actively written out. The fact that the archive does not exist about our historical records or our lived experience was a choice. And I want to thank you both so much for starting a new canon, for developing a space where we can be seen and create our own narratives. And I really hope someone's goal one day is to top this. Because unlike whiteness, there's a generosity of spirit that Ubuntu holds that allows us to continue to create on the shoulders of giants. I thank you both so much for being giants, for all of us collectively. But I also challenge the rest of us to meet you with what you have given us. It's the pass. Thank you, Fezi.
The church girl in me wants to say what a friend we have in Jesus, but what a friend we have in Indaba Is. Oh my God. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We had a conversation with Untomzikona Valela, who is the people's historian, on Wednesday about the legacy of Winnie Mandela, her spiritual life, her political life, and what it was to serve. And I think the conversation around service is what artists do. We are so deeply honored today. You know, we had the vigil for Umthokozi Sintumba the Sunday after he was shot, after he was brutally murdered by the South African state. And Sia was one of the first people that I called to be like, hey Sia, we need to figure this out. And he was so generous, so abundantly generous by bringing in a cohort of musicians. We also had Ipupo Liga Biko, that's on the Forge site. We are so grateful that we have such generous, thoughtful, communitarian healers. And often what we do is we make as if the work of healing is abstract and is not definitive in the societal makeup. But in fact, what we know is that it is healers, it is cultural workers from which we can ask other questions that connect us to our humanity. And so today we are so unbelievably honored. Luenda was talking about the archive. And in fact, it is true, the archive is not a brick and mortar thing for black people. It is the thing that we do when we meet in community. And so we know that COVID is this anti-revolutionary, anti-black, anti-communal disease. But we know that the answers are through cultural workers. And so today we are so thankful, we are so blessed. This is gonna stay up on the Johannesburg Commune page, so share it. This is a deeply Pan-African moment, but it's also a deeply global moment. It's not by accident that this happened. 150 years after Charlotte Maxeke, 150 years after the Paris Commune, 150 years after the Nationale, which is the anthem of the left. It's no coincidence that this discussion happens the day after the anniversary of the TRC, which happened in 1996 yesterday. What happened in the TRC was a definitive erasure of black people. And what they did is they put it in their music, they put it in their art, the ways in which they were disempowered. And this is another remembrance of those folks. So we are so grateful. We are so abundantly grateful. Thank you so much for watching at home. Share, like, subscribe. And next week, oh my God, we have Spam Dalose. We are so excited for that. So check our social media. We are so excited to have Spam Dalose. We have some incredible programs also happening this month. Stick to our socials and we'll let you know about them. Thank you so much.